This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 625 of the Dressage Radio Show, official podcast of the United States Dressage Federation on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products and TotalSaddleFit.com. On today's show, we have a quick but exciting update with para rider Charlotte Merle-Smith. Jessica Gaston comes on to help discuss flying changes. We're going to review the book Ride Big by John Haime with Auditor Sara. And we've got a great trainer tip with Lindsay Kellock.
This is Reese Koppler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Rockwood, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show.
Well, hi, Phil. How are you tonight?
Well, I have to say, all day I've been a little bit under the weather, but for a good reason. I got my second vaccination dose, so my arm hurts and I'm not feeling great. I didn't ride a horse today, but I taught some lessons, and I guess hopefully tomorrow I just feel better. I get back on the horses and just trying to get prepared for this horse show.
Can I just have a minute of I told you so? Everybody, just let's just feel this. I talked to Philip yesterday and he's like, I just got my shot. And I was like, awesome. That's so exciting. But really take it easy tomorrow. So I'm not going to say I told you so because you were warned.
I'm not saying you weren't right. I'm not saying you weren't right. You were absolutely right. I didn't want to accept it. I didn't want to accept it yesterday.
I know.
Shot. I didn't want to accept it today when I woke up and with this sore arm and that kind of thing.
To get back to
denial about my health and that kind of thing, and just push through and do my best. But anyways,
well, I'm glad you got your vaccination, and I'm glad our life is, you're going to start returning to normal. It's going to be great. So it's going to be worth it. It was completely worth it. But if you're getting your second shot, I'm going to tell you what I told Phil, like, just take it easy the next day.
Don't schedule a bunch of things that you can't move or whatever.
Yeah, I did that. Yeah. And then I really got in trouble. So we ended up here at the farm, everybody, we organized it after my debacle. We organized it that everybody had the day off the next day. And I was like, please just stay home and watch a movie. Don't go crazy. So that was my tip.
Well, the thing is, my wife Meredith got hers earlier and she was absolutely fine. Or maybe she was pretending to be fine.
I
don't know.
It just depends.
Yeah.
Travis and I ended up. Travis also didn't feel great. Maybe again was a little better than I was, but I worked really hard and then had a clinic and I just didn't stop, and that was a bad idea. But anyways, we're glad you got your vaccine. Everybody get your vaccine so we can get the world back to normal. But I am really excited. In a few minutes, we're going to talk to our friend Charlotte Merle-Smith. And she's going to talk a little bit about going to Tokyo. I think that's a lot of what we're hearing from the athletes. Like, they are going through a lot for these Olympic Games to get there and to do all the things. And it just makes me thank them and appreciate them more because wowzas, they're going through a lot to get there. So it's hard to get to the Olympics enough.
We're going to be really happy and entertained to be watching the Olympics. You're an Olympic junkie, and I am a little bit as well. So we thank them for everything they're going through, so that we can be entertained. I guess that's a little, what the Olympics is about, and have some national pride, which you guys are not lacking. I'll just say that.
No, we're not. Go America. Go Team USA. Actually, I don't even care. I like all the stories during the Olympics. I am so tired for 2 weeks because I stay up. I get I'm like open in the middle of the night. My eyes are I'm like opening my eyes. I'm like, I can watch this. I can watch this race, or I just love it. I love the Olympics. I think it's because
NBC does a really good job.
Such a good job.
Bringing the stories to people and being, helping everybody be very much emotionally invested in every single sport.
I'll cry 5 times. A show. Travis just walks in, he just walks out. I just love it. Well, I think I have such an appreciation. I think all of us kind of listening to the show, we all do a sport where it's so very difficult. And, it's just even at competing at that level, it's so difficult. And I have so much respect for all the athletes that are getting there. And I was listening to some podcasts this week. This is a tangent. I will stop after this, but just, the track and field and a lot of athletes are paid to go and they get endorsements, but a lot of athletes are not. And, you train your whole life. And Charlotte will say that, she's trained her whole riding career for this moment. And, right now she's the traveling reserve. So she may not even get to go. She's got to go to Germany and prayers for everybody that does well. But theoretically, she's going to go to Germany and she's going to come back. She won't even go all the way to Tokyo. So just all of that, it's just a lot of sacrifices. And I think we all appreciate it because we all do it. So, but yeah, so Phil, you're going to a horse show talking about sacrifices and competing. You guys are going to get to go to a show?
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like there's any sacrifice there. This is why I do what I do, basically. But hopefully everything goes well and we have a successful weekend. And if not, we'll do what we can to manage what we can, and we'll carry on. Hopefully there'll be another horse show this summer where if we have some disappointments, we can hopefully correct them and go back and fix it and do it all again. But
it's happening. I love it.
It's happening, right? Yeah,
I love it. Yeah, we have also a show here this weekend, our Kentucky show. I can't believe it's July. I just feel like it was just the May show. But it's July. So yeah, I'm also gonna get out there a little bit, and then Bingo and I are gonna do a Grand Prix again. So I'm looking forward to it because he's ready. He was really mad when he didn't get to go to the last horse show. So it'll be fun. He was like leaping in his stalk because he was like, I want to go down that truck, and I'm like, oh, you're the next show, buddy. So it'll be fun to get out there this weekend and get ready. So, but we have a great show for everybody, and we're going to have a quick commercial break, and we will be back with Charlotte Merle-Smith.
This Nutrition Minute is brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, the company that simplifies your search for research-proven nutritional supplements at kppusa.com.
The horse that matters to you matters to Kentucky Performance Products. Managing horses can be challenging. Each horse's personality affects the way he behaves and reacts to the world around him. Horses with certain dispositions can be at higher risk for developing health problems than others. High-strung or excitable horses are easily stressed, but so is the timid, quiet warrior. Stressed horses are more likely to develop digestive upsets that lead to colic, diarrhea, and ulcers. Nalox Advanced was specifically developed to support a digestive tract that is under stress. It sustains proper pH levels, reducing the incidence of ulcers and hindgut imbalances, while simultaneously supporting the healing of damaged tissues. Nalox Advanced supports the complete digestion of starches and sugars and sustains populations of beneficial bacteria. Make life a little easier on your sensitive horse and start him on Nalox Advanced today. To learn more about the ingredients in Nalox Advanced, visit Kentucky Performance Products at kppusa.com.
Well, I am so excited tonight to have friend of the Horse Radio Network and friend of our show, Charlotte Merle-Smith. She is the traveling reserve for the U.S. Para-Dressage team. She is going to Aachen. And first of all, Charlotte, we just wanted to congratulate you, girl. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much.
I mean, I just had tingles when I saw it. When that press release opened, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting.
Oh, yeah. I've been working my whole riding career towards this, and it's here.
It's here. It's here. So tell us, Charlotte, for everybody who doesn't know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your horse and your story?
Let's see. The elevator version. I was a 3-day event rider professionally until I got hurt on 10/15/07, and now I am a para dressage rider. I have an incredible mare now, and her name is Guada. She is the third horse I've ridden as a para rider, and it took a couple years to find her, but I found her now, and we're going good places.
So I was just going to ask you about, you had recently done a show, I think, down in was it in Ocala or was it at Tryon, where
Tryon.
you were Yeah. Okay. At Try On, where you were pretty successful. So can you just tell us how that show went?
Yeah, so that was our final observation event for the team, and it was awesome. Every show, I can ask for a little bit more, and I get more and more brave. And I also I've just had her for over a year. I just asked for that much more, and she was incredible. We got to show in the main arena where the World Games were, and it was so cool.
That is so cool. So Charlotte, I mean, now literally you are packing for your trip. First you go to Aachen, then you go to Tokyo potentially. Tell us a little bit, because this is fascinating to me, on what you guys are going through. I mean, I think this is not going to be a normal Olympics. Even now, just going into the bubble at Aachen. Can you explain to us what's happening to you now as you get ready?
What's happening to me?
What's happening to you?
Well, so there's restrictions because of COVID, and Tokyo has a lot of restrictions anyway. We can only bring unopened stuff into quarantine. And because we fly in quarantine in Aachen, we had to bring unopened stuff to Aachen, and then we had to have unopened stuff for Tokyo. So we literally have to get 2 of everything.
So Charlotte, tell us, what is it like to pack for Aachen and then potentially going to Tokyo?
Oh, it's sort of fun. I mean, I get to buy new everything. It's not fun for my pocketbook, but it's fun to go into the tax shop and be like, oh, I get to get that, 2 of them. But I have to get some things like some new big trunks, because I have to ship in those. And it's just a lot of lists. There's a lot of lists going on.
I bet.
Yeah.
And when do you girls head to Tokyo? To Aachen? You're going to Germany first, right?
Yes. So everyone has to be in Wellington the 6th of August and congregate there for the final vet check. And then we fly from Miami to Brussels after that, and then Brussels to Aachen. And we're there for a week. And then the team goes to Tokyo, and 2 reserves fly home.
Fantastic. Now, would any of the reserves do showing in Europe? Are there any shows in Europe, or it is just a fly home type situation?
No, there are no shows, but we get to, ride at the big Aachen Stadium and everything. So no shows.
Well, that'll be just maybe a warm-up experience, just to get you used to doing that. As you said, you're kind of with a new combination horse rider, and then when you do make the team, you'll be ready for all of this stuff, right? That sort of I think it kind of takes the pressure off, and then I mean it would be a bonus to be able to go to Tokyo, but you don't wish any of your teammates ill or their horses either. So that's kind of a weird position to be in.
Yes, absolutely. There are going to do mock shows in Aachen, but not actual shows.
So you'll get a lot of practice then.
Yes.
The preparation
and it's such an incredible experience. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Charlotte, I have to be honest, I'm super jealous, because Aachen is amazing. And I think it would be so fun to even just ride there and be in that environment with all the other riders getting ready, and what you can see over there and watch other people train, I think is pretty amazing. So I think we are so very excited for you and for your adventure. And how can our listeners follow your journey? Are you going to be on the gram or Facebook, or how can we follow you?
Yes, I have my personal page, Charlotte Merle-Smith, and I have a para-equestrian page that I have to start posting on again now that things are getting exciting.
Yes.
So Charlotte Merle-Smith para-equestrian, and I have my Instagram is helmet wearer.
I love it. Well, fantastic. Well, I personally am going to follow you. I know everyone on the show is going to be following you, and we can't wait to hear how it goes. And we would love for you to come back on and tell us about your adventure.
Of course I will. I'm so excited.
Oh, you should be. We're excited for you. So good luck, girl.
Yeah.
And have a
Thank
lot
you.
of safe travels around the world with your new girl.
Oh, thanks so much.
Well, tonight we are so happy to have Jessica Gaston. She is a professional rider in Ohio and the owner of Majestic Dressage. Jessica, welcome to the show.
Hi, how's it going?
Great. This is your repeat performance. You've come on the show a couple times, I think.
Yeah, known you for a while. So
I know, we've been together a while. Yes.
Everybody that knows Reese knows that she grabs people, to do segments or chats with us on the show. So.
Well, Jess has been
It's good.
Yeah. She has been, I don't even know how old you were when you first came here with your pony, but it's been years little. At this point. You were little. Now you're a married woman and a professional rider. And just, it's so fun for me. And I know there's other professionals, as we grow you guys up. I do get the wonderful opportunity to come and visit. I always talk that it's my grand trainer moment when I get to come and see Jess, because I get to see all her kiddos and people she trains. So I was actually up visiting a couple weeks ago, and we had a pretty interesting horse that we worked together, right, Jess?
Yeah. His name's Dumont. He's a 11-year-old chestnut Hanoverian gelding.
Yeah. And tell us a little bit about his body style. Cause I think we decided, or I asked you if you would kind of come on the show. And he's been having trouble with changes with his owner, and you've taken over his ride a little bit. And, I think this is such a typical story that I think a lot of people listening will relate to. So that's what we wanted to talk about, was a little bit about Dumont, a little bit about his body, a little bit about how we sort of work to theoretically fix the changes, because they seem like they're going well, right?
Yeah. The ride Monday was super. It was one of those rides you get off and you do a little dance and you're like, I'm done for the day. So Dumont, he's a big, long type of horse. So he has a long neck, a long back, long legs. He's a very lovely horse, has very good gaits, but he tends, because he's so long, to get stiff. And in the saddle, the stiffness doesn't feel like an old horse stiffness. It's very rigid against your seat kind of feeling in the stiffness. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's the feeling you get from him. So when you came down for the lesson, you really worked with me and him on doing a lot of suppling, and even just in the walk. Like, we didn't look at the changes, and I've been riding this horse since April, and I just started looking at the changes like 2.5, 3 weeks ago. Right before you came down. So just in the walk, we did a lot of that suppling work to unlock his back to be able to move and bend and be actually through his body, which was really fun and really cool. And actually, Reese, you said something that was like a well, duh moment for me.
Yes. I like hearing this after. This is great.
Yeah. You told me I was walking across, I think I was doing a change of bend from like a shoulder into a rambert. And you said that change of bend was late to your aids. That's a late change. And I was like, well, duh, that makes so much sense. If it takes him 4 strides to change his bend, it's going to take him 4 strides to get a clean change,
Yes.
So all week after you left, that's all I did. I barely even looked at the changes. I was just trying to work that suppleness and make that change of bend smooth. And Monday I got on and I went around and warmed him up really well, did all my groundwork, all my prep work, went across the diagonal, asked for the change. It was there. It was beautiful. Went across the other diagonal, asked for the change. It was there and beautiful. And I'm just like, that's so cool.
Awesome. I really do find that, I find when you watch and do walk work, I think walk work is underrated, because a lot of people want to rush forward, especially with a horse like him being kind of a longer, stiffer dude. First of all, it unlocks the body. It's almost like yoga for the horses, but you can also sort of identify where the problems may be. And I think that's such a critical thing to say, because you're like, wait, when you watch it from the ground and watch that horse come from one direction to the other, you could see it. And you were like, well, that's right there. That is the problem. Because if you think about the mechanics of the change, right, the horses, they have to shift that way. right? They almost have to, their whole spine shifts and has to shift. And you could see that that was the kind of resistance point. And so you were able to figure it out, number one, and you can do it in the canter as well, but it's great to start in the walk. And the other thing that I find, and I think we looked at this with him too, is the kind of walk canter aid that, that has to be pretty sharp off the aids, because if that has a lag, that's going to be a late change as well. So that's another kind of hot button. Phil, how about you? What are some things that you find in these exercises?
No, I mean, I think this is a great discussion. I mean, we're getting down to the horse not only being obedient to the aids, but also quick to the aids. I think this is what you guys are talking about, So this idea through second level of being able to go from shoulder in to travers to renvers, to a little half pass. I mean, it's important to be able to do those things, but it's also really important to be able to change between those things, because that's the real definition of suppleness, is not whether you can do a shoulder in, whether you can do a travers. Even stiff horses can do that, but whether you can change between them, and the horses, sharp to a little flexion aid to the inside or outside, sharp to a little directional aid, inside or outside leg. And for sure, Reese, the simple changes have to be extremely obedient, extremely, because if you think about it, if like the flying change is a transition without the walk.
Yes,
it's the same transition, only you eliminate the walk. So if your horse comes down into a walk, is organized, is quick to your leg, and you can pick up. So I like to think about, or asking the riders to be able to pick up the different leads. So left to right, right to left on the long side, and only do one stride of walk. Then maybe you're ready for a flying change. But if you can't do that, and the horse, can't come down to walk, shift to the other bend, shift to the other leg, and pick up the canter again with, I'm really serious, one stride of walk, then how do you think you can be quick enough to do it without the walk, or mid-air? I mean, a flying change is called flying because they have to change leads mid-air, in that suspended moment of canter. So you have your 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. They have to be able to go 3 and then change, and then back to 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. If you can't do it with one stride of walk, you're not going to be able to do it in that moment of suspension in canter. And the horse has to be able to change the bend and change their alignment, the way the legs are oriented and that kind of thing in that moment of suspension. Then you're always going to have a late change.
Yes.
So. Yeah, I think that's in essence, part of that is really developing obedient, supple work and going, and doing lots of patterns and lots of cool things. There's a ton of ways to be doing small circles and your lateral work to be prepared to balance that horse for the flying change. So it sounds like you guys are getting into it now and now having some fun with it and seeing how you could spend half an hour of doing suppling work, even if it's in the walk, to be able to achieve one flying change.
Oh, easy.
That's about the ratio, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Set the horse up for success by doing a ton of counter canter, a ton of true canter, a ton of walk, a ton of all the lateral movements, just to get one flying change. And then, like you said, you pat the horse, give him some sugar, and you're done for the day. Yeah. I think too often people are like, and now I'm going to work on flying changes, get the horse out of the stall, tack him up, and then say, okay, I've done my traditional 15, 20 minutes of warm-up work, and now we're going to do flying changes for 3 hours. I tell you what, it's not going to work.
It's not going to work. It's not going to work, and it's going to be worse, actually.
Yeah, you're gonna make problems.
You're going to make problems, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what this horse knew changes, right? This wasn't his first day on the job, was it, Jess?
Yeah, a couple people have tried them with him before, and I touched him when I got on him for the first time in April. I touched him, and I wanted to see what he would do, and it was pretty bad. Like, I'm not going to lie, it was a little scary. And thankfully, his owner was really open to my idea. And I told her, I want to work him until the middle of the summer and I don't want to do any changes. I said, I want to do counter canter and I want to do walk canters, basically everything you were just saying, Phil. And I told her, this is what I'm going to do with your horse. And this is what I think he needs to do in order to do the changes. And, she's smart enough to be okay with the fact that I'm working her horse to do the changes, not doing the changes.
Yeah, that's exactly
that's important. That's an important concept because people think, well, are you working the horse? And it's like, whoa. He's actually not ready. And changes are one of those things that if you mess them up, it is very difficult to fix it. It's almost impossible. You know what I mean? Like you can't fix that. And that's the tricky part. So, it's once you've sort of, you can fix it, but it gets difficult.
Yeah.
So
it's 10 times longer.
It's 10 times longer
if they learn to do it wrong.
Yes.
And it's 10 times longer if there's been a lot of tension in the training.
Yeah.
Like then you have to go, a year of getting the tension out, and then another year of, doing the suppling work, and then another year of actually trying to introduce suppling and relaxation into a movement that they've built all this negative mental energy all about. It's a problem. Yeah.
It is a problem. It's a big problem. And I think that, that was kind of where the approach we took with this horse, because he's a big dude and horses do, it happens that when they learn changes, they can jump around and fly around. And so that's sometimes, but a lot of that jumping around and flying around, that kind of stuff is coming from tension in the back, in my opinion. Wouldn't you guys think? To me, if they're leaping around,
it's the same way that a young horse will buck going into the canter if they're tight in the back. It's the same changing the lead in the canter with an older horse.
And if you go at that with a stiff back, oh boy, you could really get into trouble.
Yeah. You end up in the rafters a little bit.
Yeah. And that's what had happened with this horse, right? He
had a lot of that tension and anxiety, and, he's a really kind horse and he's really well schooled in his movement. So you go down the long side and ask, shoulder in, 10 meter circle, haunches in. He has that in his sleep. So the same way you went across the diagonal where people, or in a pattern where people would commonly ask for changes, and all the tension would come up. I'd go across
because it's been ingrained that way, and
it's been trained that way, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, he'd get halfway across the diagonal and start, bracing his neck and grabbing at the bit and tightening his back up. And I did a lot of just 10 meter circles at X until he would soften and quit. And then let's counter that one too.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what we're saying, all three of us, is this is a pretty common problem. I saw this twice today in my barn, I'm sure you guys saw it too. Two of the horses I saw today were doing this. And I thought, don't be afraid to step back a second and find out sort of where the problem is and where the tension point is. I think that's super important to do. So I wanted to commend Jess because, we did have kind of a breakthrough, but I think it's, the changes here's 3 professional riders on here and we're all kind of talking about ideas. And this is a time that, because it can be difficult to communicate with the horse what you're asking, that it is a good time to involve your trainer, number one. But I do know people that sometimes, like in your case, Jess, the owner said, hey, why don't you work on this for a little bit? It's not a bad time to give the reins to your trainer and have them do a little bit of work with them. So yeah. Well, Jess, thanks. This is such a fun conversation. We could all geek out and talk about this for longer, but how can our listeners find you online if they want also some help with their horses?
Yeah. So the best place to get a hold of me is probably through Facebook. I'm on there too much doing horse things, as everyone does. So my Facebook page is Majestic Dressage LLC. Majestic is spelled with a K at the end. You can also find my personal page at Jessica Gaston.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Jess. And we look forward to hearing how this boy does. I can't wait to be there when he does his first St. George.
Yes, me too.
The Horsemanship Radio podcast is dedicated to the advancement of great horsemanship throughout the world. Monty Roberts often stops by to present on this podcast, hosted by his daughter and legacy strategist, Debbie Roberts-Laux. The show includes segments, tips, and interviews exploring effective training centered on the well-being of the horse. This multiple award-winning podcast has 1.6 million downloads to date. HorsemanshipRadio.com, sponsored by Hands On Gloves and Monty Roberts University.
Well, tonight we are very excited to welcome one of our auditors from the Horse Radio Network, Sara. She is on to review our Club Book of the Month, Ride Big by John Haime, The Ultimate Guide to Building Equestrian Confidence. Sara, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
Well, Sara, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became a Horse Radio Network auditor.
So I live in Michigan, and in the morning I am a working student at the farm where my horses are at, and then in the evenings I am a mental health therapist.
Great!
And I have an Azteca mare and a Lusitano and a couple minis, so I'm quite busy. So I have been listening to Horse Radio Network since way back when it first started with Stable Scoop, and finally this past year I joined the auditor page. And I can't believe I waited so long to do it because it's just been awesome.
What's your favorite part about Auditor Page, other than getting kind of a free book and being able to come on the show with us? What's it all about? You know, let people know who aren't involved with that maybe yet.
It's just a really great interactive community, and you feel like you're part of a community when you're there. And I know when I first joined, I felt really welcomed, and you just get all these extra like perks and behind the scenes looks at things, and you just get to connect with other listeners who are really into it the same way. So I love that sense of community.
We love it too. And it's really cool. We're on the Facebook as well. And it's fun to just kind of pop in there. And it is really a cool community and people that really support themselves and support the community. So we love it. Mm-hmm. Well, we did not know, because one of the benefits is we put up, when we have a book club book, we put it up in the auditor page. That's sort of one of the perks. And we had no idea you also kind of worked in mental health. So this book actually was probably kind of cool for you, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it's one of the reasons why I was interested in it. So yeah, I thought that was really cool that I got picked for this one.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit, just kind of talk to us about the book and one of the things that you liked the most about it.
So overall, I really liked the clarity of the book. I think it set out to do a specific thing and it did it as far as the message and the information it was trying to convey. And I really liked that because it was very clear, concise, and it carried through the whole book. So like what you were picking up in the first few chapters, he carried through. So I did like how it was set up that way. It was so simple to follow through, but really powerful techniques.
Yeah. I mean, we've reviewed brain training for riders previously. Mm-hmm. So I was like, how is this going to be different? How is it going to be the same? Is it just going to be more of the same? So what was interesting for me, and when I started reading it, is how John, he starts off the book with, you've got some homework to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a little bit different than brain training. He really wanted to guide the rider into defining their own equestrian experience and what you as the reader wanted to get out of it. And then, like you said, it's organized in such a way that you can achieve that goal, or at least that reflection on
mm-hmm.
what are your goals? What do you want to get out of it? How can we help you to prepare yourself through competition or not competition and doing a better job of knowing yourself? That was the first part of the book, is like, know yourself. Mm-hmm. and then you can guide your experiences from there. And it was work. I really tried mm-hmm. to sit down and really think about that. And so throughout this book, I read the sections, I read the chapters, but I didn't really read it chapter to chapter. I read a chapter and then I sat and I thought about each chapter, because it involves quite a bit of participation from you as a reader, not just to take in the information, but to be providing, I guess, for yourself some feedback, into the thoughts that he was having. Do you want to maybe talk about that a little bit?
I did really like how he had all these opportunities to reflect. He had all those interactive exercises to trigger those ways of reflecting and increasing the rider's sense of self-awareness in order to figure out how to develop goals that are clear and get the confidence that you need to move forward. But I just really enjoyed that I had almost every chapter, he had those little checklists and got me really thinking and looking at, sometimes I would fill those out and be like, oh, I'm not quite where I would have thought I was before I started that checklist. Sometimes I was a little more balanced than I would have thought. So I loved that part of it.
Yeah. And I think the checklists were super. So I flipped open the book and I also he has really good illustrations in here. And my favorite one, and I actually photocopied it and put it in the TAC room. It was the path to your vision. And what his point was is like, your path is like, this is going to be so amazing. And I'm going to go get a 70% and my truck, but in reality, like
every day is going to be awesome. And
every day is going to be awesome. I'm never going to have a problem. My truck isn't going to break down on the way to the horse show, and the reality is, and that's what he shows. He's like, there's peaks and valleys and bears and, like sharks and boats and like all the things to get to your path. Right. And that's what he's saying is like, and he gives you techniques. And I think that that's so very helpful. Because it's so true. I'm sitting here looking at my truck that was just in the shop. And I was like, a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, how am I going to get to the horse show if they don't get this truck back? And I was like, it's okay. Calm down. Let's figure this out. So it was good because it gave me some strategies. Before I would have absolutely had a stomach ulcer. I would have been up all night, like panicked about it. And I was like, my sister has a truck and trailer. Like, I had strategies that I could kind of deflect, which was really helpful. And the other one that I thought was really interesting was how many thoughts we all have as humans every day. And 80% of the thoughts we have are negative. So I thought that was really interesting because I started to kind of think about that. And I was like, wow, okay, maybe we need to change this, and think differently and just be aware of that's kind of where your brain goes. So I think there were so many strategies in this book, but also just awareness of, oh yeah, okay. And I think that was really helpful because like you said, there were exercises and you had to self-reflect on that.
With what you just said, the one thing that stood out to me when he was talking about the negative thoughts was that it's natural for us to be negative, that it's actually part of our survival mechanism. It protects us from risk. Which gave me the opportunity to kind of check in with myself sometimes when I felt some of those no's coming up when I was working with my horses over the last week or so, where I would check in and say, where's my negativity coming? What am I trying to protect myself from? Which gave me a whole new way of reframing why sometimes I was pulling back and it was huge just to be able to reframe that question and check in of why am I saying no right now? Or why am I having a negative thought now? Which is huge because we have them and it's easy to get caught up in negative thinking. And then that just derails you. You can't move forward when you get stuck in the negative thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And the thing about this book, I mean, there is a kind of a focus towards competitive aspects, competitive goals. But a lot of the book is not about that. I mean, the chapter, that I really liked the best was, and we all can feel the problems in riding is that we all want to be just in our comfort zone, whether it's for safety reasons, whether it's for, personal ego reasons, whether it's just, it's so easy to just be in the comfort zone. And it's fine, if that's where you want to be. But if you have any aspirations to grow your skills, to grow your knowledge, you have to be out of the comfort zone to be able to do those things. And, each person has their own comfort with stretching the zone, right? Like, comfort zone, we talked about it before, comfort zone and panic zone. Nobody wants you to be in the panic zone. But if you don't get, start to push the boundaries of the comfort zone, it gets smaller.
Into the stretch zone. You got to be into the stretch zone.
You got to be in the stretch zone. And yeah, of course, like, perhaps you're doing a movement and you've done the movement before, and your coach said, well, that's pretty good. It's for a 6 or whatever, but I want you to try to do it differently, or, and then riders are so reluctant to do it differently because, and I get this feedback too. Well, it doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's because you do it wrong.
Yeah.
Or, or whatever. I like,
it's supposed to be different.
That's kind of literally what I want to say, but it's just like, it doesn't feel the same because we're trying to make it a little bit different, whether it's with more energy, more power. Riders generally, shy away from more forward, more power, and then they limit their horse's abilities by being a little bit tight or a little bit, not following the movement, just simple things, right? To get out of the comfort zone. You don't have to be in a danger zone or a panic zone. But I when I was reading the book, I'm just like, so many riders like, oh, that doesn't feel right. And then, you do a lesson and you're like, okay, let's try this for the next week. Then you come back, it's exactly the same. Well, you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable for things to progress and improve. And, maybe your half pass isn't forward enough, but if you don't expand your zone, it's never going to get forward enough, or it's never going to improve. You'll be stuck at a 5 or something like that, or you can't progress to flying changes if there's an issue with your counter canter, like that kind of thing. Like, oh, well, counter canter, it doesn't feel right. I'm just not going to do it. Well, you've got to kind of. It talks about pushing through the problems and not sort of avoiding the problems. So I was in a lesson today, and the rider was reluctant to make a correction because they were afraid of the results of a correction, which is kind of the horse would brace or run away, and that's not a nice feeling. But I said, you have to kind of make a correction, deal with the results, and come back and try again, and hopefully the correction worked. And then like the 3rd or 4th time you ride it, you can feel that it's better. But in the moment, it's not going to be, it's not going to be improved. It's it might get a little ugly. Kind of that kind of thing is all about stretching the comfort zone and, going through problems and not around them. So like I said, that's my favorite chapter because it deals with riding, whether you're a competitive rider or not.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite chapters too. I really enjoyed that one, the comfort zone.
Well, where I was going to go too is honestly, even picking this book up and reading it is sort of part of that, right? It's kind of pushing the comfort zone and sort of kind of looking at yourself and what you need to work on just as a rider and as emotion, kind of emotional or, kind of working on that, because that is part of riding as well. Even if you're coming out just to play with your horse, and just ride and have fun, on some level, you need to be able to say, okay, I'm going to sort of have a plan. On some level, I'm going to leave what's happening at home or in my personal life. I've got to leave it alone because I have to be present with this horse for safety, if anything. But just sitting down and starting to read these books and taking some extra time out of your day, because we're all busy and we all have lots going on, I think is really important. In this book, especially, because it did kind of force you a little bit to take a minute, like you said, Phil, sit down, think about things a little bit differently, which I liked. And I think that, you can, we had a great interview with John Haime, the author, a couple months ago, and he's great. And he was kind of explaining that as well. So, I really think that this is a great book. And Sarah, we can't thank you enough for coming on and reviewing the book for us. And we hope everybody enjoys it. And we have another book coming soon. So stay tuned. And Philip and I are going to look forward to announcing that in the next couple of weeks. Well, Phil, today we were actually doing some saddle fits here at the barn. And I noticed one saddle without the stability stirrup leathers. I was like, how has this escaped me? How have you made it? Yes, it's one of our wonderful students who leases one of our horses, and I couldn't believe it. And I looked, and again, it was just shocking to me because all my saddles have the stability stirrup leathers have a little bit wider. That's what they do. That they're wider and they stabilize your leg a little more. I couldn't believe it. I just hadn't seen it in so long. So I can't wait for her to order a new pair, because I just was shocked.
We're trying to make converts of the entire dressage world, at least.
Yes.
There's not much we can do about the hunter jumpers. You can get them in shorter versions but at least in our world, we're trying to convert everyone we can because it's such a great product.
It is really a great product. Very rarely are you like, that is a product everybody should have, and this is a product everyone should have. Why not? Why not help yourself out, help your leg position? So it's so funny because I haven't seen that in so long in my barn, and I totally forgot that saddle didn't have it. But anyways, again, totalsaddlefit.com, place to go. We also are going to work on some saddle fitting questions for Justin from Total Saddle Fit. And so if you have any questions, email me, Reese at horseradionetwork.com, or Philip at horseradionetwork.com. And we're going to have Justin on answering some saddle questions because we're getting a lot in the queue and we want to make sure that we can have them ready to go to ask them. So again, great products from Total Saddle Fit, totalsaddlefit.com, and they will take care of you over there.
This week's dressage training tip is brought to you by Total Saddle Fit, home of the shoulder relief girth at totalsaddlefit.com.
Well, for this week's Total Saddle Fit tip of the week, we have Olympian Lindsay Kellock. She's packing for Tokyo, and she is back on the show to tell us a great tip. Lindsay, welcome back.
Thank you.
Well, you have a great tip for us. I know you are packing like crazy. You leave tomorrow for Tokyo, or for Germany to go to Tokyo. So what is your tip? This is a great one.
Yeah, so I thought it'd be appropriate while I'm packing, one of the most important things for me when I'm competing and at the show ring is to have my ring bag stocked with anything that I think I might need, whether it's an emergency or just some essentials for the horse. So I think, the biggest thing is I always try to have, first of all, towels. I have a sweat scraper in the ring bag always. If they're going to be sweating, that's essential. A hoof pick, you never know, things might get stuck in their feet. You want to be prepared for that. Another really great one is if your horse has white legs. I always like to bring a little bit of white cream and baby powder because you never know. Sometimes they cut themselves in training or in the schooling ring right before you go in. And it's just really great to be able to have some baby powder on hand to kind of make the legs look a little bit whiter. Of course, sugar is a big one if you give your horse treats. Another one is at the Olympics, I'm going to have an extra nose band in my ring bag because I'm not sure if everyone's seen or heard, but back, I think a year or two ago in Aachen, Adrian Lyle was actually going around the outside of the ring and Salvino's nose band broke. And I really learned from that situation and thought, okay, you should always have a nose band in your ring bag because you never know what's going to happen. And her groom had one, so they were really well prepared. Another great one is having an extra pair of gloves. You never know if it's going to rain or you're really sweaty. So that's important. Braiding elastics is a great one. A tail brush if the tail gets a little bit tangled. And I think sticky spray. That's a big one for me. I like to put sticky spray on my saddle to make sure that I'm really stuck in there.
I love it.
Don't reveal all your secrets, Lindsay.
I love it.
I know, right?
Can I add baby wipes? Can I add baby wipes? I just love a baby wipes.
It's a great one. Yes.
I love a baby wipe.
A bucket of water also by the ring. You can't really put that in the ring bag, but I know in Tokyo we're going to have buckets of water so we can sponge the horses down before they go in.
What about, do you have water or Gatorade or, something like that for yourself?
Of course. Yeah. So I always have water and Gatorade in my bag all the time. I know Ashley and Brittany, they like to have a Coke on hand for that little extra sugar kick.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
I can see it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. So
fly spray wipe.
Super important.
Fly spray.
For sure.
Yeah. I like the wipe because you can get the horse's head. Yeah.
Oh, fly spray wipe. Phil, that one's a good one.
Fly bonnet. There's so many things, but I always
bring the most I can. And of course, extra set of polos for presentation, or boots if you use boots. But yeah, there's always have the ring leg stocked. That's my trainer tip.
I love it. That's a great trainer tip. Well, thank you for sharing with us. I'm gonna be watching on the live stream from Tokyo, like what's in her bag. No, I'm just kidding. But
you never know.
You never know. I love it.
Yeah.
And Lindsay, tell us if our listeners want to find you on your journey, follow you on your journey to Tokyo. How do they find you?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram. I'm on Instagram as Lindsay Kellock. I'm also on Facebook. I'm going to have a website up and running in the next month or two. That's lindsaykellock.com. But mainly I would say I'm on Instagram. That's where I'm at. So follow me there.
Perfect. We love it. Well, good luck in Tokyo. We're going to be sending good vibes from all over the world for you guys, and go Team Canada.
Great. Thank you so much.
Well, as always, we love email and Facebook shout outs. We love to hear training updates. We got a few of those this week, and that just makes Philip and I smile. And that, you guys are learning stuff through the show. That makes us smile even more. So feel free to send those to us. You can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our website, dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
I think the best way to find me is probably through Facebook, or my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors for allowing us to put on a good show. That's Kentucky Performance Products and Total Saddle Fit. Don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we will talk to you next week.